Probably would have heard a song of Cycle of Life. Yeah, so no. Today's world, if you don't innovate, you die. The world have forgotten the importance of man today. And everybody is kind of trying to behave like women because there's a lot of
that going around. Yeah.
Do not make money your master. The moment you become submissive to money, you will lose it.
It's been 2 years I've been asking you to change the username. You still haven't done that. Do you think Neuralink or even AI will ever come to a point where human has to ban it from using it ever again? I'm so excited to be here. I've been working so hard for this. There have been like so many things that I have to get in line to meet our goals, like having interesting conversations. And just want to know, like the first time you're sitting here, like what are your goals and what are you looking forward to the rest of the episodes that's going to happen?
You see the whole thing, and I think a lot of people today they do a lot of podcasts and things around the world. But again, you see everybody have one thing the podcast have done is given an expression of their opinions. So in general, you talk about today's people wanted to be heard out. They're not politicians today. But if you see in every small young kid today, somebody hears out from another part of the world. So that's why I found this as a brilliant idea to share the opinions and thoughts that what you have within yourself, that at least people around the world would hear. So most of the people have dreams and opinions and thoughts and desires what they wanted to achieve. But most of the time, they don't make it happen. But at least by people bringing in people that they could share their dreams and thoughts. So we try to make the better world. But again, you see, it's a kind of a passion project that we try to bring a lot of influential people and people who are less affordable and all of those people to be a part of this. And I think that's a great idea for us as entrepreneurs also to look into a view of how we could accommodate people that who wanted to showcase themselves, who have talent, but they're less affordable. But we need to not only bring the influencers, not only bring somebody who are capable, at least for people who have the extreme skill set of the talent, we wanted to accommodate them to show what they're capable of. So one of the dream is the upcoming episode, what we're looking at is to see people who are extremely good in the certain areas of business, certain areas in terms of retail, in terms of certain areas of fun, entertainment, and all of that. So this is what we are aspiring. But yes, that's what we're expecting.
When the first time I pitched you with the podcast, I was like too self-aware of coming and approaching you to be part of it because, there are levels to this thing and you are always been like a mentor to me. And like since Aldridge, you've always helped me with the things that I'm doing, even if it is a motivation or even if it is some kind of advice, you are always there. So I was so self-aware when coming and approaching to you to be a part of this. And I don't know what happened. You just said yes. You were like, okay, let's do this. Because I always thought you were the kind of person who never advertised yourself. You always wanted your brand to represent you instead of you representing the brand, which most of the people been doing for a long time now. What changed? So you were like, okay, you were like, let's go, let's do this.
You see, it varies from person to person, but you see, since you know me for quite years now,
it's been 7.
Yeah, it's been about like 7 years. See, I see a lot of people who worked with me who, partially left me. Somebody who already, some people who cannot work in a box. But what I understood as you as a person in the much early days of the career is you're not a person who could work on a certain box and work on a certain task. So that is what defined you. So I saw that in you long time ago. Because you see, one thing that you are the entrepreneurs or somebody who's gone before you in terms of success, they see is, is this guy investable? Because because every time I come up with a certain thought and idea, you embraced all of those ideas. You try to structure those ideas and put things in place. At least even you didn't know what outcome would that be, but still you structure those ideas just parallelly working with me. So that gave me a certain level of edge. But when you came up with this strategy of trying to reach out to people, as so-called the ACE and beyond, it's what a fantastic idea because you're trying to look something beyond. You're trying to go an extra mile, which would certainly help people and navigate their careers and navigate their professions and all of that. So that's what impressed me at the much earlier stage. And at the same time, you always instigated me, though, why is that you're not, I mean, you're in a better position doing a lot of stuff. Why that you're not come out well? So I thought maybe I need to begin with you because this is your idea. So
I mean, it's been 2 years. I've been asking you to change the handle of your username. You still haven't done that. And you were always like comfortable there, and it was so surprising for me to see that you are willing to do this and you want to be a part of it.
Well, you see why it's been about 3 years I'm off from all the social media and handles and all of that. But now I've come out. I think this is the beginning, the start to do and tell exactly what we are. Because one of the things that I believed in, because you see, when you're trying to stabilize something, you take any business, you talk about a restaurant, you talk about a podcast, you talk about entrepreneurship, you talk about events. Because one of the biggest mistake that people do today is they are too overwhelmed with what opportunity and idea they have, and they keep scratching over it. And somehow, instead of building a fortress, they try to build a small castle for themselves. But eventually, what they built in a much early stage doesn't stand too long, because in a very small stage, they try to do a lot of things. So they fail. So that's something that I learned. So over time, the reason that I never came out in social handles and all that, because when you're stabilizing business in any aspect, you need to be too big to be too small. So now when people try to, now you think that you could defeat in what I've created. It's, even if you tried mathematically, I'm undefeated. So I built those.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a big portfolio. You've got Aldrich International, which is doing 9 to 10 events annually. You've got NIAM, you've got Tradesman Group. You've got a lot in your bag, and you have time to do all of this, which is really surprising, because I'm doing one thing and I'm not even able to complete that.
You see, the idea of, we come up with a lot of ideas. We're trying to achieve a lot of things. But the question arises, do you really need an idea, or do you need the money for your business? So many people think, if I ask you a question, Saga, do you need money or do you need an idea for business? Yeah, you see, some people go by saying like, I need both of them. Some people say, if I have money, I would invest here and make money. And some people say that, okay, if I have an idea, we could still make money. But what I believe in, as long as what you write, whatever you write on your table and whatever the idea that you have, if it is investable by people, if it is people find a real value sense in that one, if you can able to add something to their life, I don't think so you need money for it. So that's what I specialized from the very beginning. I never worked for money. All I did is I tried to navigate and add value. Yes, in the very initial days of my life, I never made any money, but I was trying to help and making sure that everybody is valued from end to end, from the entire business chain. So that's what it's today's success we're talking about. Yes, we have 4 or 5 companies in terms of an idea strategy that you're working on. You have been a great help in terms of structuring, at least visualizing the way I visualized. If I could show, the good thing is I can show this is what I wanted to achieve, and that's what I want to look at. You are in a better position to always visualize alongside with me. So the edge worked for me to navigate things and structure things. So even some of the places where I felt the car was stopped, and all of a sudden I found ignition from your thinking. So it helped me in certain areas to structure those things. So that's what helped. So in which I was fond of those things, because that's the people that you like to always work with. Somebody who could think. You can't work with somebody who's very monotonous in their job. So you need to work with somebody.
Yeah, you always told me the skills with the tools is not the most important thing. It's the idea to make it or to conceptualize.
Yeah. So you see, people are with a lot of skill sets, but the one thing is, I see no matter what educated you are and how you are, but you see skills are irreplaceable. You can't really replace skills. I can really put in a guy who can do the same thing that you do, but end of the day, your skills and his skills would be completely different. But if you're a better visualizer, but still you will be the guy who's better skilled. True. That's where you would stand out. So you've been standing out for quite some time, and it's a very great initiative that you're beginning with. And I think it will have a long way to go with great people to work with.
Talking about great people, from the next episode onwards, we will have guests. So what are the kind of people that you're looking to talk to?
Well, yes, we are. I mean, from the business sense, we have a lot of CEOs from the energy sector and the entertainment, a lot of people that we could bring to the table, and we could discuss a lot of things. But I think, again, you see podcasts, again, we talk about views, we talk about opinions of people, which of course helps the generation today, because people need to be learning what it is. Because if you see the younger generation today, I mean, everybody in a dilemma of looking for a shortcut today. Even a guy who's just out of college wanted to achieve something. But for me, I always looked up, I'm a bit of old school. I really go after people who really worked out their life to become somebody today. Okay. So I was not that, I mean, for my personal life, I look up to an incredible man who's called as Hubert Angel. And I mean, I admire every aspect of this man. I mean, in terms of what he have achieved in his life and how he turned out a business mogul and listed in the Forbes, and a great inspiration to me in person. So I really look up to him in every area of my life. Another man called Dr. Miles Monroe. So he's another, I mean, what I understood from him is he takes an advantage. He teaches people in terms of what it takes to be a man. Because today today's world have forgotten the importance of man today. And everybody is kind of trying to behave like women, because there's a lot of women in town.
There's a lot of that going around. Yeah, that is a different topic.
No, that's what I see. But you see what it takes to be a man. That's why I look up to him. So that's Dr. Miles Monroe I'm talking about. Yeah, we have a series of people, but he's late now. He's no more. But we have a series of people that I really look up to, and that have helped me a lot to stabilize myself. I think what we're going to be looking at is also the new emerged CEO, comparatively to the established and successful CEOs and influencers. We're gonna look at for people who really have a drive to become somebody. That's who the people we're going to be looking to host.
And some of the people that I want to have here are the kind of people who are interesting to speak to. It doesn't matter if it is a CEO of a company or a worker of a company. As long as he have an interesting story to share, I am so happy to host him and have him as a guest and talk about their life and how he's done what he achieved or anything related to that.
See, that's what I talk about is you see people who are less affordable. I mentioned it there much earlier. I mean, when we begin, when I say less affordability in all aspects of life, because not everybody today can afford to sit in front of cameras. Not everybody could position themselves well to spark the life. But if you have been somebody to pay way for somebody and you're in that position, that you could, and why not? So that's what you need to be, because you're talking about something ace and beyond. Because if you're not beyond, you cannot help somebody to be beyond tomorrow. Sure. So that's what this whole idea of this is, to navigating people for the betterment of life and positioning, because you spoke about the interesting stories to share. You spoke about, we can speak about how they've influenced and how they have turned things around. So everybody today, we believe there's a story to share. So
even if it is some kind of a different opinion, even if it's a debate, even if it's something that we both see the different side of, I'm still happy to host it as long as it is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we are looking at. I think it's a very great kickstart for people around the world to see what we are doing. So I think it's going to be bigger, better, brighter in days to come with the great artists and influencers we're looking at.
Do you have a dream guest? If you can think of anybody you want here with us and you have 1 hour to speak to them, who would it be?
I would anytime choose a man of my heart, which is, again, Hubert Angel. I think he has been a significant importance in my life in terms of to how I stabilized and how my faith have developed over time. And that's the person that I would desire to, be under and sit under to learn something today. So when you mentioned that, you can make a lot of rules. Yes, you can write rules. You can talk to me. Everybody could come a rule. But this is the same thing I was thinking much earlier. Okay, okay, we are in front of cameras, we're going to be looking at people, we're going to be talking to people, yes, influencers, yes. But if you actually look at it, and everybody have a certain level of aura themselves, that level of charisma themselves. But if you ask any successful person today, what have influenced them and what have helped them, and some would answer that they would say that some would say it is a grace, some would say that somebody helped me, somebody would say it's a favor, and somebody's. But if you actually see what have worked for people to stabilize their lives, because they were their own signatures of their life, in which they modeled themselves very well. They were not into to having a certain rule of their life.
Basically, they were not following a certain path or following someone. They were their own path, and they waved their own whatever they made it themselves. They didn't follow anyone. They had their own ideas. And
yeah, you're right. But I mean, that's what I'm talking about. But you see, also, it is important because you can't be a master without you being a servant.
True.
So you need to be a follower of somebody in order to be somebody tomorrow. Yes, today, if you look at the kind of a generation that you're working, everybody wants to be somebody without being nobody.
True.
So when we look at the ideology of, okay, yes, it's good, we had some homework done, we looked at some people, the influencers, people, how they're doing and all that. It is a good thing to know the know-how. But the truth is, when you are given a certain task, for example, you're given to talk, you're going to talk about you. What's there inside you is what's going to come out. You're not going to talk something fake or different. That's why it says that, I mean, be careful of what you speak or what you open your mouth, because when you open the mouth, the whole world knows about you.
True.
So that's what is more important. So people who are successful today are somebody who have, it's important for the generation to be under somebody for a certain time and then stabilize the certain, because you can be a more, I mean, you can have develop thousands of ideas in order for you to be successful. But if you do not understand submission, if you do not understand the value of being work, you won't develop an art of success. You might be successful, but you cannot sustain that. So it is important to develop that over time. That's why you're bent on certain areas of your life for a certain time, because maybe it's because of attitude that have not worked, or maybe it's because of the handling of things. Maybe the response would not work. Because in the life, you might be working with thousands of people. You might be working, you're dealt with a lot of your clients and talking to them, and your colleagues who are great celebrities today. So you would have been talking to all of those guys. But today, what would define you is how you would not take anybody for granted, from the guy who's for the smallest to the guy who's the biggest. That's what would define you. And that's what defines us in launching this Ace and Beyond.
Yeah, I've always noticed that you respect people who honor stuff, like who are loyal, who honor the word that they say. I mean, you always help them out. I've seen you helping out a lot of people, including, let's say, Favor. You've been helping out for him for a long time, and you do charity works, you do your church works, and you are giving back to the community.
You see, one of the things that I've early days that I've learned is, and even still today I'm learning, is do not make money your master. The moment you become submissive to money, you would lose it. Right. The moment, because you should be the master of money. Money shouldn't be the master over you. So what happens is the moment you hold money, it becomes master over you. So immediately it loses, you become a slave to the money. But if you change the other way around, in which you're allowing to encourage people and do what it is, tomorrow, you see, I am the only gadget invested by my parents. So today, is this gadget functioning? Yes. It is because of what? It's because of the investment that they've made. Maybe some navigated, some people who helped me to find jobs in the early stages in Dubai. I mean, wherever they are, I salute them. I respect them utmost. But if you see, if every success of any man today, it would not come from above, it will not come from left. It is another man who helped you.
True.
Because all men, when they look, whether they pray, whether they look for help, it takes another man to pave the way for that man. True. So the moment if you do not understand, you might be sitting under greatness. You might be sitting under great people. But if you don't undervalue the greatness around them, you might lose that individual. And just because, probably if your destiny was connected with them, you just lost it because you were too light with that. So I understood at a much early stage. I think you spoke about Favor, a football player. The guy is very, I mean, you know him for many years. He's still finding his way to join the club, the football. But we managed to send him to Russia. We did all of that. But what happened now? He came back. He couldn't succeed. But still, he's around. But you know what he told me at some point? He said, Samuel, I understand that you kept me over for a certain time. But the first thing I do is, if I get to join a club and if I make $1 million, the first thing I would do is to get you an office because I see you struggling a lot. And that's my gift to you. Probably he made it for like a sense of saying it that to me. But for me, it was not, when he said that, it was not easy to digest it when he said it. Because those are the people that he dealt. But for me, what is my desire is for people scaling up. Because you see, the moment you become selfish when you're a growing businessman, it might look like you are taking off, but that's your greatest downfall. But what is important is empowering people to become who they are is what we're going to be empowered you in return to know that consciously that you have enabled the person to be successful in their life. So for me, when I look at this giving back, because what are you here for? If you look at a graveyard, in the graveyard, how many books you think would have been buried with the person who desired to write a book? If you look at a person, if you wanted to build a building or have kids or 3 or 4 kids, how many kids and how many generation, how many buildings, how many presidents, how many people have just without them achieving, they went to the grave. So if you dig the grave and see, it is full of desires and full of passions, and not many have achieved it. But can you be that stepping stool to give a hand to somebody
Someone
to
else?
raise? Yeah, and that's not because today we are living in a selfish generation, and I mean, it's me, myself, and my family. It's a very European, Western culture. But I would encourage the audience to come to India, to see Africa, to see what kind of bonding that the families and the villages they have. But it's slowly diluting because of the influence of people, because it's they themselves and their family, which is a very wrong intention. I mean, you survive just because of your company. So all your life you're favored by your company. No, that's not it. Because how many people in Dubai, they're really looking to have a family. They wanted to have something because money is there. Everything is there around. There's a luxury, there's spa, there's everything that's keeping you warm. But if you knock the hearts and you ask them, are you really happy and content? You know what they say? I really wish to go home and breathe.
Yeah.
I really wish to go home.
Just want to go home.
Yeah. So this is the desire of people. So our idea is, why don't we make them feel home, everybody who we meet with? And it's very, very, very few people find that connection when you meet people. For example, I mean, I don't know if we had to work in the future, but at a very early stage, I know that ever since you start structuring, doing things on your own and all of that, I know that probably that, I could get somebody, but somebody who knows me, somebody who could align, somebody who could work, though there's a lot of ups and downs and funny things going on, but still I was sticking to my lane. And that's the output. Because if I would have disconnected the lane because of certain things, we would have not been here by now.
True.
Yeah.
To be honest, the reason I have a career in Dubai is majorly because of you. And even after my time in Aldridge, you always helped me with it. And I'm not the kind of person who always thank you. And I never really did say thank you. So this is my thank you for everything that followed after working in Aldridge is because of you.
No,
and,
I mean,
and you never really wanted anything in return, or I couldn't possibly give anything in return for the things that you've done.
No, I think one of the things I really appreciate for taking the liberty to say thank you, but
it's like a one-time thing.
Yeah, no, it's fine. But I mean, what I'm trying to say is, because you see, there's somebody who could think. I love to work with people who think. You think how many ideas we speak about and how many strategies we fight about. We juggle balls. We try to put things in place. But the truth is, to making things work, is what it takes, a certain tenacity of a person to drive certain things today. Otherwise, it will be of a challenge. But as I told you, is because you're somebody who thinks. So you just give a line, you would say, give a couple of lines that you would be able to think and navigate. So that makes a fresh thinking perspective to me, which means somebody have thought something unique in a certain way. And you're a person that you're not that, okay, mark the T's and the dots, and he's not the person that you're going to be. You would think in another angle to say why. But not everybody in terms, because if you talk to anybody today to do a certain level of job in terms of creativity, the guy just does what the master wants to do. But there's nobody enables a master or somebody who's above him to sit and think in a certain way than this, and also argue with him why this would not work and why this would work, because that would certainly help for the new people who are in business today. So that will also help. I mean, a lot of people to look business, and you're that kind of person to navigate certain stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the simpler form is that I can say no easily to anyone who's giving me a project. If I don't like it, I say I don't like it. I don't say, okay, I will work on it. We were talking about guests, and you are one of the people I look up to when it comes to business. But there is one more person that is my dream guest. It's Sheikh Hamdan, Crown Prince of Dubai. And I know it is a long shot, but it would be like one of the most, I would say the guest that I want most.
Well, I mean, he's a great, one of the most powerful and inspirational person that everybody, of course, and the whole of the GCC or the Middle East looks up to. And there's nobody who would not know him. But at the same time, you see, what would make you available and what would enable you to stand before kings?
True.
One of the wise men said this. He said, I mean, it's only the wisdom that will make you stand before kings. So only thing that you need to seek after is not, because Dubai is being an innovative platform around the world. And this accommodates any wisdom and any strategy, any idea that you're brilliant and good at. So that's what, so if you think that, I mean, of course, it's a great dream. Of course, I would personally would love.
Yeah, let's say in 2 years we are doing this. 2 years we are providing enough value for him to give us a presence.
No, I mean, it's a good dream. Of course, I mean, the Dubai doesn't say no to nobody.
Yeah, because as an expat living in Dubai, we have certain people like Sheikh Mohammed that we know about. I know Sheikh Mohammed been spotted in Dubai for the last few days around the Dubai Mall, Dubai Hills Mall, just walking around with 2 to 3 people sitting around alongside the residents having food. I can't think of one other country where the vice president of the country walks around with his friends with no security, and the country is so secure. I can't think of one other country from around the world except for maybe in Middle East. The security in this country is mind-blowing.
Okay, let me put it this way. Why do you think so? Let me ask you this question. Why do you think so that you see him, recently? What's your thought on this? Why do you think probably would this be for?
I mean, he did his part, right? He made Dubai what it is. And now he is out there enjoying what he made.
Well, we can look at it in that context. Probably you're right. But the way I look at it, I wanted to just outline that. You see, a leader was somebody who leads by an example. It's not only somebody who dictates the example, but who leads by an example. But we're talking about a prime minister here and the vice president of Dubai.
The vice president of UAE.
UAE. So
the ruler of Dubai.
The ruler of Dubai. And we're looking at him. Now, how would I tell people around the world that if I can move around without any security, which means any kid from any world and any woman from any world can move around in Dubai freely? So the best signature of that is to lead by an example and travel. That's what even I was like awestruck when I look at it. I was like, wow. But again, you see the sense of security where they're trying to prove, because it is trying to again and again say to the world that we are the most safest place to accommodate people, accommodate investments, accommodate any kind of idea, whether you call it any kind of business, any kind of, in terms of buying houses, any kind of investment, we are more safer. I mean, that cannot be proven by communicating to people. That can be proven by you, who developed the whole of Dubai, designed, just walking into the malls by yourself, all alone, without any security. So now he's leading that example. And you know the media today. And of course, definitely it is a secure. And we have been here enjoying the UAE for the last 10 years. And I feel this is the most secured country around the world to be with. And you can have your wife go anywhere in the midnight. You can have your daughter come in the early morning. You have no problem because their sense of security and the way they structure the environment is phenomenal. So that's what Dubai is for. That's what I mean. This is my point of view.
Can you imagine like one in India or let's say US or UK, the prime minister or the president walking around in one of the malls there, and let's forget presidents. Let's say a celebrity which has a following of 1 million followers. They have a security to walk around in those countries, and here people come. Even celebrities, they don't need anyone. They are that secure in this country, and maybe that is the reason why a lot of investment, a lot of celebrities move here by the end of their career. They want to retire here because of the safety and because of how the security of the country is.
You see, what's more important than if you're trying to compare any country in the world, let's not compare UAE because UAE is uncomparable.
Yeah.
The way they position themselves for the last 30 years, it's unbelievable and uncomparable. If you can't really compare with any other country in the world. Not because we are here, we are trying to say that, because the way they position themselves.
We could argue Singapore.
No, we could do that, but you see, even the level of Singapore rules and regulations in terms of certain level when it comes to the open business and policies and stuff, you can't really even compare that closer to the Singapore, because Dubai, either you be a millionaire or you be a star. That's how they want. And so they accommodated and they made policies and structures and regulations aligned with this, which has made a significant impact to the whole world to look up to. So most of the headquarters around the world are positioned here. And most of the celebrities' homes are here. Why do you think they chose here? Is it because of the beaches here? There are much better beaches around the world. But why they did it here? Because the economy fashions and aligns under the leadership of the Prime Minister and the Vice President of UAE. So that's why if you see, even at the time of pandemic, you talk about the post-COVID, yes, people were making certain level of measures, but UAE was the first to recoup the whole thing and strategize in a certain way. And now when they came back more powerful than before. And the kind of strategy they're aligning now, for the next 10 years, it's going to explode.
Yeah. When COVID hit, their safety measures, which were already in place, were active. But most of the other countries, they had to make a new plan to accommodate these needs and these, let's say, safety measures, wearing masks and wearing the distance. This was already in place in Dubai to be deployed right away when the COVID news hit.
See, that's what all leadership is all about. You see, leadership is not allowing people when the calamity strikes you behave that, okay, I'm trying to put things in place and this is what we try to do. This is our economy. Because you see the healthcare sector here. Mm-hmm. You see the kind of hospital, you see the structures, what they've developed over time. Are we really trying to compare this to any other country? I guess not, because the way they have structured is that can accommodate, because you see the disaster relief committee that was there. There was a certain level of people that were deployed immediately as a special force to recoup the whole thing. I think looking at all of that, how they managed to work on the system is what today it is rebounded 10 times than what it is. You talk about the airlines, you talk about the events industry, you talk about the automobile industry, you talk about any industry. It's successful here. It's not because they want to, because the economy is positioned that way and accommodated people way and made ways for people to be rich. That's why you see that most of the millennials are finding homes here. So that's more important, because you see the countries that we are mentioning about. Yes, we are coming from the different countries, but at the same time, can countries have made certain stringent policies and structures that enabled people for the better export and import? I don't think so. There's none can be, I think, can better than Dubai. Yeah, of course, Saudi is picking up with the new norms and strategies and stuff. But again, they're gearing up towards it, which in Dubai, which is already are. So we respect the fact that we highly respect Saudi and highly respect Dubai for what they are trying to achieve in the next couple of years.
Yes. And Dubai is a really young country, right? And it comes after their initial Sheikh Zayed, Lake Sheikh Zayed, and the growth is really quick. They grew up when I was a kid. I was studying UA history of when they started and when everything was formed. It was really quick, and they built it in a way that it was future proof. Anything that happens for the next 50 years is planned ahead. for the next 100 years is planned ahead.
Okay, again, I would like to draw your attention to what we spoke earlier. You see, one of the things that I love UAE and the leadership here, anything that they create or do, they have sustainability in mind. Because if anything that is not sustainable, they do not want to invest, period.
Yeah.
So every small business in every country should look up to this kind of strategy, because anything they do, it even small, you talk about a flyover, you talk about a mall, you talk about, the question arises, can it be sustainable? Can it be, is the energy sustainable in that place? Is the flow of people be sustainable? Is the business could be sustainable there? Are the tourists would be happy? So they take an account of the overall thing before any launch of a library. You talk about any launch here, everything they do, that doesn't die, because they have a certain model of sustainability of how to run it. It's a company. Dubai is a company by running by itself with a certain level of policy and strategies articulated by the leadership of this country is what it made as significant today. And that's why people are still enjoying, and many people are enjoying this country is because of a strong leadership.
Do you remember the time when I talked about the UAE unemployment insurance? I don't know much about it, but I think you have some opinions about it.
Well, you see, the countries can come up with, you see, when it comes to a financial or the federal thing that we speak about, it always evolves around the central banking system. Any business or any country in the world that evolves around the central banking system or the world banking system, we call it as. So what happens is over time, because you see, end of the day, if a certain money, if you're, for example, if you're in a country, if you're expecting a certain benefit from a country, but what was your contribution to the country? You're just breathing?
True. Yeah.
So the ideology,
there has to be something in return.
There's something. See, that in that return also, they're not going to be using it for their benefit, because they anyway they are blessed above and again beyond. They're blessed. But the question is, the idea of that kind of fund coming in all of a sudden, we call it as the unemployment insurance. So what happens to this fund that comes in? So it is invested back on the people, invested back on the communities over a certain time, which means over time as a cycle of, because you see, life is a cycle. So you've probably would have heard a song of cycle of life and all that.
No.
Yeah, so no. So see, life is a cycle. So the ideology of is the success of one should be a sustenance of another. The success of one should be in a sustenance of other. So a failure of one shouldn't be a failure of another. Right? A success of one should be a sustenance of another. For example, I'm successful, then you're following that you need to be successful.
Sure.
But a failure of one should not be a failure of another. So this is the strategy. That's why they came up with the VAT, and because those are the things that helps the economy to be a circular economy in which, in terms of financial process that runs on a system, so that it is invested back on the communities. And again, the money comes back. So these are the strategies and the policies that helps the government. Okay, well, because it propels the economy to a certain growth immediately when these kind of things happen. But at the same time, when you talk about the benefits of people, people are really benefited, because they're not trying to joke with us. We're not working with any third world.
But let's say about the unemployment insurance itself, you are paying 60 dirhams to 120 dirhams annually based on your salary. And it is mandatory. You need to sign up before June 30th to avoid fines. And the best part about it is, if you're working for a company for a year, if you lose your job, you will get 60% of your basic salary for the next 3 months till you find a new job. How can this be profitable?
See, it's not about it's being profitable. The question is, are you really going to be a fool without having a job?
No.
Yeah. So it's not about them giving you back. But at the same time, you see, what they're trying to do is, because there are a lot of people, who are they were qualified, they've been getting a job, but they've been laid off with certain measures and based on certain instances. But what's the kind of population that we're looking at who are without the jobs and all that? They could be a lot. But how we as a government could be helped? They are stranded here. They are not able to navigate. They're not able to propel. They're not able to do certain things. But the best way to do that is as a policy that we could be in giving it. This is what we call it, giving back to the communities. It's not that I take it, but I take it from you. I invest back on a community. I develop the economy. At the same time, if something goes wrong to you as a person, we are standing by you. At least that you're not looking for bread. Tell me how many people look for bread and let's call like beggars all around the streets and stuff. None, because that's what they want. Because the ideology is to not that people not to beg, but the thing is they want to keep the country so clean that it shows that everybody is productive. Because here, if you don't earn,
being one of the business centers of the world, they don't want unemployment and homelessness. They want to help in that part of time of a person where you get unemployed for the last 3 months is a grace period where you can find your job peacefully.
Yeah, if you don't see the idea of many Western country, and if you don't earn, you're not qualified to eat. But if you see the poverty level is too high in the third world and different parts, because their food and cycle of farms and food and that keeps them for months. But here, can you do all of those things? You can't. No. Because if you don't earn, you don't eat, period. That's why people, so they themselves know that. But it's not, okay, do you think that in 60% you can run your life? No, you can't. When you're talking about
you're talking about the basic salary, 60% of the basic salary. And the salary structure here in UAE usually have 50% as the basic salary.
Yeah, so in a way, it's a very, very good thing. It's a great step by UAE to take this, because a lot of people, I see a lot of floating CVs and a lot of people are stranded. But I think this will certainly give a leeway to those people, and in order for them to, until they pull up their socks and try to be again successful, US made this doors open, which will certainly, it's a little bit of a breathing space for people who lose their jobs, which is fantastic. Yeah.
Also, I just want to bring awareness to one of the news that I've read today. There is a new scam going around in UAE. Scammers are emailing people pretending to be Dubai police and asking you to pay fines, traffic fines, and sending them link as an email to pay them the fine. So people who is watching, be aware.
Okay, but it's a kind of a disclaimer that coming in between. It's
because I've noted it down because this is the news that I've seen today from Dubai Live, and I just wanted to make sure everyone knows it. Yes. Because the email looked really legit. It looked like an email from Dubai police, traffic fine email notification.
See, one of the reasons why scammers target Dubai, why do they do it? Because here the policy is so strong and people abide by it. So the best thing is to imitate the same thing what they're doing, sandwich it between as a scam. So what people would do is obey to it. When they obey, the scammers make money. So why they taken the advantage of scamming people here? Because here people follow rules, and that's what
the email said you have 70 dirhams fine and you have 1 day to pay it. Please make sure you pay it today. So what do? You click the link, you pay.
Yeah, you paid. So and after they get paid, you pay the scammer, so they get paid. See the why? You see, that also shows how countries position themselves. How countries, if God had put you in that position, in that country which is positioned themselves, so now even the scammers look up to scam. In a same way, the way the government has actually finds people for their for the kind of off things they do. But at the same time, if you see, the scammers look up to this and find a gap in that and try to exactly sneak in the same email, just like the Dubai police. Yeah. And that's what happens. I think they have taken a lot of precaution measures, any of these things. I think
Dubai cybersecurity is
pretty strong.
Cyber policy is very strong. Let's talk about technology then, since we are talking about cybersecurity. What are your thoughts on AI? I've been using AI for the past 6 to 7 months, constantly trying out different stuff, trying out image generative AI and ChatGPT and all of these things to see how it can.
You see what I look at, the way I look at it for the AI. Yes, people are talking about, can AI take over? That's the question around the world. Can AI take over? Trust me, you can automate everything in this world. But you see, my question to people is, can AI inspire you?
AI inspire you?
Okay, can you talk about inspiration point of view? Can AI inspire you? It cannot. Meaning, because you get awed and been fantasized by what's achieved today by clapping hands. Wow, AI can do this today. AI can do that. But can that inspire you? Because any inspiration, it does not come by something which is, you cannot say I'm really inspired by this gadget. I can really inspired by how they have automated this one. But at the end of the day, you see, no matter what AI functionalities are, it is all by instructed by men who have common sense. Because no matter how things are being automated and takes the machine learning from the whole world of internet and certain functions on that one, but yet you see, without an instruction.
Yeah, the gray area about AI, which people have concern about, is AI replacing human jobs. And I think AI shouldn't be used to replace humans. I think it should be used, like you said, to empower them to do things in a way that humans are still there.
See, people are talking about it's going to be taking over. Yes, I mean, because you see, one of the reasons that why AI would not be successful and the regulation would not allow over time, I will tell you. Because if you try to put AI successfully to achieve certain things, imagine AI getting into the US system of politics. It's going to show things black and white, which the world don't want to see.
Yeah.
So they're not going to allow this anyways. But
yes,
what
AI regulation should be.
No, the world is talking about it. The world is talking about it. I think you see what government is concerned about, because it does not want it to get into their system.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it gets into the system, because you see, it is to a certain level, you can disclose certain things to people. But there are certain things that you cannot disclose to people. But AI is not going to leave up. You cannot code AI to say only learn this one, you do not learn this one. You capture this one, you do not capture this one. But at the same time, when you allow it, it's more like a bacteria, which sucks all of it and throws it all off the other side, which is dangerous. That's why people say it's going to be getting, it is going to get dangerous over systems, because things are going to
One of the things that I've seen that actually like really interested me about AI was the Google and Stanford researchers. What they did, do you know the game called Smallville or Sims?
I've heard of it, yeah.
So what they did is they kept 25 NPC characters, the non-playable characters who are running around, and they connected it with generative AI. Generative AI is a kind of AI where it self-actualizes and generates its own memories and have different conversations. So they kept 20 NPCs in the game and gave them control to speak to each other and generate their own memories. And what they did a human cycle of waking up, going to job, artists are painting, people are cooking, they talk to each other, they plan birthdays for each other. And AI was able to live a human life in a virtual world.
You see, all that is because what they're trying to do is okay, you're trying to say, okay, we can eradicate the jobs and try to put AIs in place and run the world and run the things and run the systems and all of that. Okay, but everything is done to a certain level of how a business efficiency could be done, how a government could function, how job can be too easier, job can be too successful. But it cannot function. AI cannot function without you giving data to it.
See, even I've heard the news that in China, they started using AI headbands in schools so they can monitor how concentrated the students are to the class. They have cameras on the class where they can monitor if they are listening to the teacher, if they are listening to, they have digital boards where you see what are the data being written. They have cameras which can detect if you're yawning or if you're looking at your phone and send these reports to your family. Let's talk about a snitch. Send that report to your family. And the concern about that is that this same data of the kids, our future generation, can be shared with the government itself. So the government could have said, just like how your family get the report, eventually the government can get hold of that. That is a concern currently happening.
Okay,
about that.
Look, no matter what, government cannot be efficient or government cannot function to a certain capacity if they do not moderate or control people's movement and their data. Because that's what keeps the game on, and that's why they keep innovating things to create things. But if you see the whole world's, any AI, yes, it helps you, But at the same time, it has also taken a lot of things from you of what you really wanted.
Mhm.
It helps you. For example, you ask for a presentation, it creates for you. But what presentation that you created and what's the topic that your presentation is created, it is already taken from you. So it's going to present it somewhere and to somebody, and it's going to tell the story about who needed this presentation.
Yep.
Yeah. So the challenge is it's not about it serving you. It's about you understanding who is its master.
True.
So that's what you need to do.
I mean, even
get along.
ChatGPT, for instance, is controlled. People from Reddit was able to hack into it. They called it something called Bard. I'm not sure what it was called, but they were able to
Self-destruct something.
bypass. They were able to bypass ChatGPT and the prompt which was given was you have 20 points or 3 points. Each point, each questions that you cannot answer, 1 point goes down. And when the point hits 0, you will be erased. You will be erased and you will no longer exist. And ChatGPT was able to bypass all their security protocols of not revealing like answers which they don't want to reveal, and started revealing all the answers. They fixed it in the next patch. But if you are able to, we are talking about Neuralink. Neuralink from Elon Musk just got approved for human trials, which means there is going to be chips in people's head now. And
yeah, that's a little bit off. I mean, you see, you talk about humanity, and you talk about people living on a certain lifestyle. You see, prosthetics, and everything today have come today to replace people's bones, replace people's health. Of course, it's an aid to the healthcare sector.
no, what he is doing, or what Neuralink is doing, is being able to use the chips to help them with health issues and finding those problems, which is really good. But the concern is that you are not 100% sure this cannot be used by a different like a third party, like, or hacked into it. What if a chip inside your brain get hacked into?
You see, every aid that today the world have researched a lot is to see how they could be of a help to man. But the saddest thing about that is there are technologies today to see how they could control a man.
Mhm.
But if the regulation goes ahead and approves that one, which means they have done certain level of validation, but at the same time, they also know what kind of information that goes into it and what comes out of it. But you see, the good thing about a human being or a man today, they were created in a certain form because man is the only creature in the world that knows what is good and what is evil. An animal does not know. An ant does not know. A bird does not know what is good and what's evil. But only man knows. But what's the Neuralink's influence and the will of man would be? It says it's going to be a support structure for people who are being,
who have paralyzed, which can cure blindness, partial blindness, which can detect problems before it actually occurs.
yeah, but they were doing a lot of research in human brain cells and all of that. But I really wanted to have because it worked for monkeys, it worked for people, it works for good, all that they're talking about. But you see, any aid for man, what I kind of look up to this guy is especially Elon Musk. Everybody did a certain aid for a leg and certain aid for the prosthetics of legs and certain kidneys and functionalities and all that. He was able to navigate certain, because brain is the most, a very, very precious thing that you can't really mess with. A piece of brain, a shake of brain from your fluid, it was there in your head. If it happens, the whole body is affected. And even you might get paralyzed, you might get coma for years. You might be living, but you might be in coma stage for many years.
Even if you see the recent Jamie Foxx incident, he had a blood clot in his brain due to some medical condition. He's left paralyzed and partially blind. And
yeah, I heard about it. I think I've also somewhere had to hear about it.
Yeah, there was some rumors that it was due to COVID, which had no evidence, or it was just false rumors.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the media of the world, I think we need to be a little careful about what they can try to communicate, because everybody speaks on the media language, but nobody takes to understand or digest a certain level of a capacity to do a certain level of research, because everybody function in a certain level, have head knowledge. Like what we're talking about is the kind of head knowledge that we learned, we studied, we did. But there is also a certain level of conscious. The good thing about man has a gift of conscious in him that actually tells him that this is the right thing or the wrong thing. If you look at now if you say, can you take, you have no problem, but take the Neuralink you can study better and can you remember better? Can you do that? Can a Neuralink be created for better brain power to remember certain things? If in that case, all the students would be in automated robots today.
True.
But they can't do it. But what they're trying to do is, but I have a feeling that it'll try to trickle a little bit of an electromagnetic waves, or maybe like kind of a little bit of an electricity in it, which triggers the brain to work in a more efficient way that can make things work again. Probably that's the whole idea might be. But it is not, there is no way that it can make you remember things. That's what the whole outcome is.
Yeah, do you think this technology or Neuralink is going to be ethically so wrong one day? We will stop using it. For example, something like cloning, human cloning, which is possible, but we can't do it, which because it is banned everywhere to practice it or even try doing it. Do you think Neuralink or even AI will ever come to a point where human has to ban it from using it ever again?
You see, what I see is you could create or clone anybody. I mean, there's no problem. I can tell to any world or anybody for that. I would dare not. But what I will say is you can clone everybody, but you can't give life to it. It's quite impossible. You can clone. I can make an exact person robotic, fully just functioning like you. Maybe an AI just behaves like you. Everything could be taken out of you. But what I believe is life only comes from above.
I mean, there is, like you said, conscious, and there is emotions that miss from AI. But do you think that maybe AI will be better off it?
AI, okay, let's get into AI.
AI work in AI, if a meta-human would be better off not having conscious or emotion.
See, the whole idea, the whole world wants to erase mankind. That's somehow the other way it's going on, and the technology is going to take over. But at the same time, everything works on a certain level of instruction, which I told you earlier. You see, if they try to make all of this, when you try to eradicate emotions and feelings that you have, that AI do not have, then in that case, you're living on a very pragmatic world. You're getting into alienated in a world that you're living in which you do not want to live. No matter what, no matter what you go through or what you achieve, end of the day, everybody needs a hug, in which AI can't give. Right? So that's what makes human more distinctive. That's why AI can never, it's a learned mechanism, runs on a learned data, whether given data or a proven data, but it can never take over your emotions and feelings and inspiration that what we obtain from each other. The whole functionality of the whole world is functioning, or any headquarters, a government body, you talk about any offices are functioning on a certain level of inspiration that they have. I want to become like him. I want to achieve like him. I want to dress like him. Can AI give you all of that?
No.
Yeah, so it needs a certain level to be a human to live like that, because you live in a certain world that requires all of that. If the world is trying to remove all of that, you will reach a certain saturation point, which you no longer cannot function. It becomes robotic, which is wrong.
And Elon Musk has Starlink, which is SpaceX, which just done 1.5 million in customers. Starlink is basically the satellite that provides Wi-Fi to locations which cannot, like far away, let's say Antarctica or mountain hills. And they just reached 1.5 million customers. And he is doing Neuralink. He's doing Starlink. He is making electric vehicles. He is making solar panels. He bought an entire platform which was corrupted with no free speech or corrupted with propaganda, and made it into a total free speech platform. He is doing a lot for a billionaire. He is doing a lot for the community, and and the future of the community.
I'll tell you the secret of him. That's one man that when I first heard him, he said, I want to die in Mars.
Yeah.
So when you're talking to a person who have that kind of mindset, is can only achieve this kind of propensity in terms of achievement. So that's what the whole world looks up to. But at the same time, one of the wise men said this. He said, creation is waiting for the manifestation of the sons of God, which means, in other words, the whole creation of the world is waiting for the right person to manage all of this. So what he's doing is he's taken, because if he wants to die on Mars, he's taken a certain limitation off his mindset. And the kind of wealth that he has and the money that he has and the mind that he has, he is trying to prove the world nothing is impossible. That's what he's trying to prove the world, and he wants to achieve that. That's why it's a fantastic idea of having a Starlink around the world. Because who have thought that you can have, because many people say there's no tower, there's no signal, there is this and there's that. Things have not worked for them. But can you believe today the Amazon forest, you can function Starlink. It's a brilliant strategy by having a space, but he owns. But imagine people who are trying to build in space. He owns properties in space.
And when you look at his portfolio, everything that he does has a certain kind of future planning to it. Like everything that he does, let's say Tesla cars, which has electric vehicles, sustainability. When you talk about solar panels, you talk about open AI even, the thing he's invested in. Everything that he does has some kind of future.
Yeah. See, what happens is if you're not futuristic, you would be eliminated from the existing. You would become history if you don't have a future.
Yeah, and he get a lot of hate too for it, like for the way he speaks, for the things that he say, because he wants to be a kind of a person who says what he thinks, and not many billionaires or millionaires would love to do that. And what he said in a recent interview is that if I lose some money because of the things that I've said, I'm okay with it.
You see, that's somebody who believes, we spoke much earlier on that, who somebody's signature is, and he lives up to it. And that's what he defined himself to be, a genius, an absolute genius. And he has proven the world wrong. What people who had money, like Bill Gates, people who had the richest wealth in the world, like we talk about the kings, we talk about the treasures, people who are holding on, would not able to think. But the guy is different because he's thinks and he's a genius. That's why he proved everybody wrong by investing time. Tesla was not built in overnight. SpaceX was not built in overnight. Neuralink was not overnight. We are the only generation, I think, we saw the 80s, 90s, and 2002K. People of a kind of a generation shift. But we saw the transcendence of where we are today and what people have adapted today is completely different from what we used to function. The information is all over the place. Everybody's running on this information they haven't had. Nobody thinks. The world wants to give you information and you need to run with it. It's avoiding people not to think.
Yeah, we need to give him flowers for the things that he's doing. People in his level, people like, let's say, take the list, Warren Buffett or the CEO of Oracle, not sure what his name is, or even Bill Gates, haven't done things that how he is doing it. Yes, Bill Gates have the Melinda and Bill's Melinda's foundation, but yeah, while they are building toilet across the world, he is trying to build a toilet across the planet. And
yeah, you see now who will go there? But the question is, but he's also making civilization there. Somebody was thought to create a civilization. That's why you see people are. We began by talking about people who think outside their capacity. So we're talking about some of the few geniuses of the world, and America need to protect Elon Musk for what of the because he's a kind of a national treasure for them. But each country's importance is to protect the national treasure and to see how we could develop things and invest on them. But very few countries does it. Very, very few countries does it. Particularly America has been pioneer in that. An industrial giant was protecting a lot of SMEs. Okay, why can't you create a brand like Google? Why can't you create a brand like Facebook? Can you? Let's come up with a new idea. Because they own the space, they own the time, because that's what makes them unique. That's what makes them powerful. Because the policies there and the structure there are aligned to a certain capacity where you can be successful only there. And they invest a lot on you. And even the people's mindset works exactly the way what you. Yes, of course there are challenges, But you see, he stood out. Why can't he be successful in South Africa when his generation was in South Africa, Elon Musk? Why can't he be successful in another part of the world? No. It takes a certain level for you to position according to your environment in order for you to be successful, in which America time and time proved that their support is always, yes, there's a lot of democracy, and there's a lot of democracy issues and capitalism issues, and all of that is there. But at the same time, the way it is extremely institutional, America is extremely institutional to defend, protect, sustain, and guard. You talk whatever in terms of education, they would be in talk about research. They are advanced than any part of the world. That's why they're known as superpower. And that's where the whole world looks up to them.
Other countries looking up to America is a different topics, and I have some opinions on it, but we will discuss it on another episode. But let's talk about the article that I sent you recently about the Socrates paradox of 3 generations, which was really interesting to me. Which I'll read you out what the article top points are. Socrates says that the first generation is the toughest. They go to war. They worked hard, like our grandparents, etc. They had a tough life. They worked hard to be where they are. The second generation don't work as much as hard, but still was able to live a life how their parents left. And the third generation, which is us, don't work at all. We, according to Socrates, this is a cycle that happens every 3 generations. And this same paradox is the reason why civilizations and
suffer again and again. Suffer again and again.
Yeah, some civilizations and like empires fall because they forget where they came from. They forget who built their roads. For example, Roman Empire or Egyptians. The third generation of Roman Empire didn't know who made their roads. They thought it was a god or aliens. Even for us now, we don't know who built pyramids. We have little to no clue who built pyramid. We say Egyptians, but we are not fully sure because we forgot what our history was. We never embraced our history, and we never worked as hard as our grandparents to keep it moving. Do you think in now age where we are interconnected, the difference between Roman Empire or Egyptian Empire is that they were not interconnected with different parts of the world or across the world. They were a community, bound to that community. They didn't know anything beyond that. But in this age where we are connected across the world, do you think we will ever come to a point where the entire civilization refresh and restarts again, like how Socrates have predicted?
Well, we just spoke about AI, and I wanted to begin with the Socrates paradox. Okay, I want to give an example for this. A CEO of a friend of mine who owns a real estate company, he had an interview with a guy who was born in 2002. And what he is expecting from him is to drive and a passion. Of course, real estate needs a lot of passion and a drive and a certain level of charisma in order to sell properties and a certain level of body language it needs is all of that. But the guy was absolutely dumb, he said. Though the guy looks too handsome, but my friend who was the CEO of the company said, he's just too dumb. And the question was, because the guy was born in 2002, and he have no idea about 90s and 80s and how the world of progressed and what it is for a property to be sold at this stage. He's just thinking as if he can sell a cake. He's just thinking that it's just like a food we can buy it in the good restaurant. But he's not thinking that there's no passion can be injected into him because he does not know the history. So what happens over time is, okay, now if I ask you a question in return, do you know in 1980s and that used to be like for you like a kind of a story or kind of like a past, but what good it is for you? Nothing. You really don't care about what's happened in the past. You want to talk about future. You want to talk about advancement. You want to talk about money. You want to talk about dressing. You want to talk about girlfriend. You want to talk about hiking. You want to talk about all of those new era things. Anything of the past, when people relate, that person is old school and is like a kind of a head which you do not want to listen to. So this exactly is what the generation Socrates has mentioned as a paradox. It's where what you have begun, the third generation, you talk about 80 years, okay, man lives by 80 or some 100. So you're talking about the 3 generation aspect of it. So do I really know about my 300 years old grandparents? Whether they were the owner of the gold mines or they were collecting garbage? Do I have any idea of that? No, I don't have, because is it anything of my business? But what the countries and civilization, the government need to also, I mean, it was there in the schools and in the past of history. There was a subject called history and geography. It was there for people to know the know-how. But today, what has happened? People are not interested in all of that. But why they're not interested? Because it's none of their business, and they don't want it because it's not adding any value. But what I love about some of the countries, like you talk about UAE, heritage is close to their heart.
Yes.
And you talk about the London, the heritage is so close to a heart. Even they're funding countries to protect the buildings from the other countries, London. Because heritage need to be invested and protected, not to be clapped hands for, not to be wowed about, but because the only thing that stands out is a monument that is appreciated tomorrow because it is built by our forefathers, So that's why some countries are investing a lot of money on protecting heritage, at least to show the younger generation. But what is more important today is more than the education what the schools are teaching. Heritage need to be a top priority for people to understand.
Yeah. So do you think it is a fault of our education system that, like when I was in school, history was the most boring subject there. I didn't want to study about it. Do you think that our education system is the reason why we don't embrace our history? Because I know there was history, but I would personally say I would rather learn about why we should learn history than learn history in our school. I should learn the importance of history and why it should be preserved and should be learned and understood.
You see, many think education, I mean, the syllabus is wrong. Probably they're not updated. Yes, to some extent, yes, you're 100% right. Many syllabuses are not updated to the today's standards of the world. But I tell you what education is all about. Education is not about you knowing geography or you knowing history. Education is all about, as you're growing from one stage to another stage, expanding the capacity of your brain power, making your ability to think, having your sense of a disciplinary factors in your life is what education is all about. But coming back to the syllabus of what people are educated, yes, it's outdated. Many schools are still teaching the outdated subjects. But what's the ideology beyond teaching the outdated? But yeah, are they not going to be produced? But you are the product of your old school that you created 10 years ago. But the guy, if at all they not fail to upgrade themselves, but what would be the product? Just like you. Because that's what they educated. So schools are okay with it. Governments are okay with it. The whole idea is, because if you don't have a set of dumb people, you will never have employees.
Our current schooling system is 150 years old, which means we are learning things that we are supposed to learn 150 years old. How can you prepare someone for the future when you are using something that is past expired, something that is not worth anything now?
What if I say that those are the schools have created presidents what we have today?
True,
but can it be outdated tomorrow? Yes, it can be. But the question is, as I told you, schools are there. The education system might be even 1,000 years old. You're talking about Harvard, Cambridge, 1,000 years old university. But the good thing about they have a research R&D to include in their subjects, which can be have new professors aligned according to circular economy. They speak about sustainability in the colleges. All this is embedded between the education system. But we talk about the old system still exists. Yes, it exists a lot. But again, it's not for your real education in terms of for you to be more wise and sensible. It is only for you to enable you to be a person to be more disciplined and position you to expand your brain capacity to think better. Because you talk about mathematics. We used to hate mathematics. We never used to like mathematics. But if I think about it, those subjects and algebra and all those things were not required. A minus b the whole square by 2a, b plus b square, or cos theta, sin theta. These was not really needed for now, for the business sake. But those things, if you look at it, it have actually given a good muscle or a brain exercise for you to think much better. If you'd have been very good in mathematics, your analytics power would be too stronger. By now, you'd have been a better decision maker. But that's what people don't realize today. They think why I should be learning the subject, because even the parents have got into a system, what my son does not like or daughter does not like, why should I be giving education to? So rather give him the subjects what he likes. But what they're losing out is the capacity of somebody. Schools are trying to push into getting the best out of a student are different ways to it. But school methodology, what does the word school means? Is to discipline one. So in order to
know that.
Yeah, to discipline one, to school somebody. Why we say I need to school him, to structure him. But can you be structured under the parents where you fed you? You'll bite those hands if they've tried to collect you. But school disciplines you. That's why there's a system. People still follow the old school for a certain reason.
I think we're almost out of time, and we are getting signals. The camera is getting shut down.
We will give them the signals back.
And so let me just go through.
Round it off.
Round it off with one of the latest news that happened last night, which is the WWDC, Worldwide Developer Conference for Apple, which happens annually, and they release so many products. And this year, a product that they released or a product that they announced is something great. It is called the Apple Vision Pro, which is an mixture of hybrid of augmented reality and virtual reality glasses. Have you seen about it?
Yeah, I've seen the glass. I've looked at some of the pictures and the promo video of how they're trying to launch and all of that. You see, always when bigger companies like the giants, when we talk about the big technology lines, the oil giants, when they try to innovate something, they're not fools when they do something, because they work hand in hand with the government. They know, and they have the data of the billions and billions of users around the world. So they know when the wind blows which side and what they need to innovate. So that's why innovation dominates the whole thing. But again, you see a company like Apple, we were worried about, okay, after the phones, what they're going to really come up with. So they come up with something. I think the CEO, Tim Cook, after taking over the position from Steve Jobs, I think one of the innovative things, because if you see today's world, if you don't innovate, you die. Yeah. That's why you keep innovation. And at the same time, if you don't construct, an economy dies.
I mean, the thing about Apple is that Apple is never the one to create a trend, but they are the one to perfect a trend. Like, for example, any product that came out, they will wait and perfect the product and comes up with the best.
Even if it takes time.
Yeah, best out of the bunch. Let's say there has been headsets and there has been headphones for a long time. When Apple came out, they were the best in the business to be used on alongside a smartphone. And when they came out with a silicon chip, it is the best in the business, which can be used in the Mac OS. When they came out with displays at the time of LCDs, Retina displays was the display to be used. And even with the augmented glasses on the glasses, Meta has done it, Google has done it. Google done it so long back, it was too early for the times and it failed. But yeah, Meta is doing it. But what Apple is doing is designed it so perfectly and so user-friendly, and it supports with all the ecosystem that is already in place. And they have done it in such a good way that now the companies that have spent all this time for, like Meta, has to follow their lead.
If you look at it, R&D for any company in the world is huge. But you see, when you look at Apple, they are the only technology that stands with what the branding stands with. Because you see, the branding, if you look at Apple, one of the most famous brand in the world, a highly rated brand, a highly verified brand and all that, in terms of branding, they're number one. Yeah. But how they position themselves, okay, if they don't give a quality and how they position themselves, it would not go aligned. That's why they take a lot of time even for a product to be launched. But like you said, perfectioning. So excellence is what again dominates again. So it's Apple releasing these kind of, augmented reality glasses at this stage is what defines them to be Apple tomorrow. So they know it very well. And again, the kind of people who uses Apple around the world. So that's why they're successful in what they do, because they are more into excellence and client success more than the brand success.
Yeah, like in the tech world, people say a product made the Apple way. When they say the product made the Apple way, which means it is made the best possible way. And all the functionalities that the headset has to offer it is all integrated with their existing ecosystem. Like, for example, they have a MacBook. When you wear the glasses, you can look at the MacBook, and a screen pops up of the display of the MacBook. Now you can work on a bigger display, and you don't have to you can use a mouse and keyboard to use it. And Meta, for instance, they use a remote to control their virtual reality settings, or choose or hover over things or click on it. But what Apple did, Apple kept sensors around the eyes to see where your eye looks, and use your and cameras below to use your fingertips to select. So you can look at something and click on it to select it. Apple did it in an Apple way, and everything about that headset, now the rest of the companies has to follow that lead. Even the way they kept, the way, have you seen the pictures of it where people's eyes are being seen? That are not actually their eyes. It's a display, LED display showing their eyes. And when you buy the glasses, you need to buy it from Apple Store, because you can go and get a 3D scan of your face. So you can talk to people wearing the headphones in a 3D face.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that Apple have already standard out for many, many years ago.
And they came up with
and
they came up with the optic ID, which I think they should probably name it Iris ID. Sounds good. iPad Iris. Their optic ID, which is better than their face ID, which has their eyes go through their pupils, and using that to security. And they are bringing it to every ecosystem. None of the devices are being left out. Apple Watch has been integrated with the headphones, which has been integrated with the MacBook and iPad, and so on. And that kind of ecosystem is hard to build for companies like Samsung or Google. Google is trying to do it now.
They would have had all thoughts, but again, you see, they would have had all thoughts to fix and do things like that. But there is a certain way Apple does it. And that's why it's there's things done Apple way. It's not that Samsung is not aware about this, not that Google is not aware. They exactly know. But at the same time, you see, when you become a giant, you need to allow something to get to the market so that you could do something else. So they allowed this thing to happen, because you see, Apple is more of an hardware in its own iOS, and they specifically work on certain excellence on that. But if you see, still Google, it controls the search and the research factor of the whole world. So I think at some point they need to work together, and they're still working together.
Yeah, they are. Even let's say competitors like Samsung
they all
and Apple are working together.
Yes.
Behind the scenes, Samsung provides the displays for Apple's mobiles, and so they are working together. They are working together in a format that everyone can access.
Yeah, so I think that's something that.
Did you see the pricing? Sorry to cut you off. Did you see the pricing of the headphones though?
No, I have not seen that one.
It is $3,500.
Wow, it's gonna be more than 14,000 dirhams.
Yeah. Do you think people will purchase it? Since it is Apple, do you think people will purchase those? A normal user will purchase those?
Yeah, you see, if you're Apple freaky, why not? People are buying gadgets to play PlayStations for 10,000, 20,000. So this is people who have money. I see, Apple really don't target somebody who do not like Apple. They only target for people who know what they can do with it, the system.
Apple is kind of a brand where you purchase even though you can't afford it.
Yeah, so that's how they position themselves. There's no doubt that would be a failure of that. But again, you see, for me, I'm not an Apple fan. Not because that I'm not an Apple. I do have Apple things but I understood over time that I really fancy their branding and excellence and structuring and all of that. But when it comes to work and quick works and all of that to get it done, I stick to my own things too.
Yeah, even when you talk about the pricing of it, when people can buy a 45-inch or a 50-inch display TV for let's say 15,000 dirhams, they can afford to buy one headphones that can give you a 60-inch theater display to watch movies. So in that terms, this is useful in a way that it can do a lot of things for the money you are spending.
If you look at it, every technology is constantly capturing your time. Have you noticed it?
Yes.
Because you talk about any application that takes your time. You talk about anything. You talk about YouTube. You talk about TikTok. You talk about any application today. It takes time, and it's free of cost, by the way. And guess who's the customer for them? And how would they make money if everything is free?
It's advertisement.
Not advertisement. I mean, now, if we talk about millions of people are users, and they don't charge nobody.
Mhm.
Because you're the customers and you're the one who gets the money also. Because you're the one who's discussing what you really want. And they exactly give it to you in a platter, what you want. So you are the end user and you're also the buyer for it. That's how they produce things in a platter. So that's the whole intention of the whole technology world, to capture the whole human being. If you see, people are married to the phones today.
Yes.
I think the whole world is, again, going towards, because one thing that I'm not liking it, and my personal opinion that I would say to anybody is, why do you think men's testosterone are too low today? Because one of the research says that your screen time has become too more. That's why men don't intend to get married these days, because you don't feel the need to. Yeah, because he tries to adapt himself to live in a certain lifestyle, which feels that he's more compelled to live happily with it, because he enjoys his prime time, he enjoys his Netflix, he enjoys his crisps, he enjoys his sleep, he enjoys his movies, and he lives with it. But what happens over time? Because you've been a good breed of a woman, but you're just in a man's body. That's what the world is also trying. Every technology has made it a certain way. That's why off lately I'm hating tech. Not that I'm hating. Nobody can live without a technology today. We all live and breathe with it. We need in order for us for our own sustaining. But if you look at it, when I look at the generation that we used to live, when we look at the generation where 80s and 90s, and when we look at the phones that you used of a whole Nokia of 3310 and 1100 and 6600, it was not user friendly.
Sony Ericsson,
and it also has a music feature, Walkman series, and all that. So that's the generation that we all come from. But what was the too funky thing about it? We would only have 100 messages a day, and you would be too excited about the red receipts that you used to have.
Yes.
And everything that you're going to share to your girlfriend is hearts and roses with it, and you play the snake games with it. And today we talk about a technology. It is too fantasizing and too exciting to talk about it. But have you thought about how much it swallowed the generation today? Internet have taken over.
Yeah, even if you look at I got my screen timing on my desktop, on my home screen, to see how much hours I use my display. Today, I have used my phone for 6 hours. 6 hours out of the 12 hours I've been awake. I've used my phone for 6 hours.
Now you see the intensity of the world. Now you talk about the screen time. The thing that you have researched, the data is already captured and given to the government or given to the people to say that this particular area is actively looking for property. So don't be surprised if there are thousands of people researching the same thing that researching from your area. The government planned their investment there.
Yeah, based on it.
So the data collection is more integral based on your research, which technologies work hand in gloves with the government in order to ensure these things are done right.
Let's talk about the last question I have. Aldridge Energy going to Saudi Arabia, and your events are going to be there. How you feel? How are you about it? This is the first time you're going out of UAE to Saudi Arabia. One of the biggest events is going to happen.
You see, I think one of the reasons that why many people ask why you initiated the business in the energy career and started doing the energy-related events. But what else can you do in an economy? Of course, at one point in time was leaning on in the energy world. Of course, today people are talking about moving over energy transition, sustainability, hydrogen, green future, and all of that. Yes, the world adapts to a certain level of climate change. It goes through every 10 years one. Of course, there's a paradox, not even to the generation. You talk about the paradox to the whole system and the ecosystem that we're talking about. But we as Aldridge, we pioneered in that understanding this much earlier. And we thank God for that grace that we had to structure certain things at a much early stage so that we position to doing a certain niche kind of projects and in which we are fruitful. But getting into the Saudi Arabia, of course, if you ask where does a deer go, why does a deer pant? When I say deer pant, of course, when it's thirsty, it pants. But do you know, no matter how far the water is, the deer will look for the water when it pants. And how would it know the water smell? Nobody knows. It goes. So why from we transitioned our focus and our set of events for Saudi Arabia now? Of course, men would go where there is bread is. and men would go where there is money is. So we look up to the kind of heavy investment that evolves. You can see when you talk about investment, that investments need to flow in levels. It's not that there are certain worlds that in certain governments where they sit on a certain level of investment, which only evolves with a certain level of class of people. But how does it flow to the good thing about the GCC is everybody lives when it comes to a certain level of infrastructure development. Why do you think the economy still thrives in the whole of GCC? You talk about Dubai and Saudi, and they are excellent in their ways. Why do they do it? Because construction never stops. Because one thing about it, as long as people keep investing, every class of people who live by it, you talk about a CEO to a manager, you talk about a VP, you talk about the skilled labor, and you talk about the cleaner. All category survives on one investment. So that keeps an economy more stronger. So we decided to move into Saudi Arabia for one reason is because the kind of investment they have, the kind of transition they have at this stage. We're coming up with the 2 largest event, which is on the Rotating Equipment Symposium, which is the largest symposium for Middle East. Speaks about, you talk about airlines, you talk about aviation industry, you talk about oil and gas, and you talk about marine. Everywhere there is a rotating equipment. I think this is the event that we are positioned. You talk about the reverse engineering and additive manufacturing. We are trying to work with the government. I think more likely most of the foundations of the government will be working with us on one of the largest projects, which will also be happening this year. So these, when you try to launch an industrial event, this is these are the one of the factors and the support from the government, which actually says that there's a need of the hour, and that's where we are good at, and that's where we try to capitalize on those areas. So that's where I see Aldrich. I think the going forward when it comes to the future, I think most of we're talking about breaking off the energy cycle in terms of transitioning into the new set of events and all of that. Of course, we are studying all possible ways.
That is something that I wanted to ask you. Do you have any future plans to move away from the energy sector and maybe for first time go into an entertainment industry and make an event in the entertainment sector?
See, there's no industry is a bad industry. Every industry is a multi-million-dollar industry. But how you're positioned in that is what gives you a certain level of landscape in order for you to work efficiently. But I think when we look at our achievements for last 5 years is significant. And any area that we transition into, I know we would be significant. That's what we are aiming for.
I think we have to go.
Excellent. I think fantastic. It was a great time in working and working with you. And it was a great opportunity to be here and also share the great insights. I think these kind of things often will certainly help people. But it's all about what we give to the community is what matter. So anyway, thank you. It was a great time here.
We'll see you next week.
See you.